So just to let you know, I am secretly an AI deepfake. We have to say the word AI in front of that because we can't just say deepfake, even though most deepfake technology uses algorithms that are very close to like LLM or artificially intelligent generated feeds and so on. But anyways, it turns out that I might not be real. Hey guys, welcome to No Touch Allowed. I'm your host Josh. Today I'm alone and I'm wearing a white t-shirt. And yes, in fact, I did have to double check to make sure that's what I was wearing because it turns out that it's kind of hard to remember sometimes. But anyways, Bigpod is off on secret missions today. He told me this a few weeks ago, and well, I actually did kind of forget about it. But anyways, we're going to talk about a couple topics here, but we've got a pretty deep topic at the end, so I do recommend that you stick around because privacy is kind of dead. But let's talk about the very first topic here. Google has had a court ruling against it that says that Google is liable for false statements in the AI overviews on Google search. And this is going to hold precedent probably for like other companies too. But of course, Google is appealing right away. But two publishers have kind of had some issues with Google's AI overviews incorrectly linking towards them in discussing sketchy business practices and scams. Basically, what it is that people would be googling searching the company's name, and the AI search result came up saying that hey, this company is responsible for like this. Probably don't use them. And when you click on the source links on the Google AI overview, it would just link to something completely different. And of course, Google tried the usual argument saying that hey, there's a disclaimer on the AI overview saying that hey, users should understand that AI outputs aren't always accurate and should be verified. But of course, it turns out that most people aren't actually verifying. At least that's what the court found. And I don't disagree because we've seen like these endless reports from smaller blogs and such saying that hey, our internet traffic has gone down since these AI overview features came around. And of course, the one thing that now this was a German court that came up with this, so obviously, it's a European company doing the good guy Europe thing. But unlike traditional search engines that merely present a list of links, my bad. I just read that part. But the court is going to put in a temporary injunction barring Google from spreading the false claims in any further AI overviews, which means that they're probably just going to disable it temporarily while this court case is still pending. Now, this is probably only going to affect Germany, maybe the EU, because I don't think that's an EU court that's going through this, but it's a German court. But in the past, these AI firms, Google being one of many, like Google, OpenAI, Anthropic, and all of them, they said that they've been writing these disclaimers and kind of just hoping that they worked. And one one went as far as arguing that AI speech is its own category of pure speech in a First Amendment protection case. U.S. First Amendment. But of course, the court ruled in weighing the balance, publishers' interest in removing the false information far outweighed Google's commercial speech rights, which honestly, at this point, let's be honest, an internet search result or a searching algorithm is an attempt to collect information of some kind. So I would prioritize removing false information, even if it costs, somebody's speech rights. And also, here in America, can we honestly just quit pretending that corporations are people? But it kind of just sets this precedent here that, hey, Google needs to, stop drinking the AI Kool-Aid and, make sure that their AI is actually doing what it's supposed to. Or, maybe just don't even have the AI overview. Have they considered that? I mean, there's been algorithms to summarize articles in the past. Now, that existed before AI. Granted, there's some companies running around saying that, those things are AI nowadays. But they could. They could just go back to what they were doing. Because, Google search just kind of sucks. But anyways, let's move on here. Because it turns out that soccer is a pretty big sport. At least here in the United States, we call it soccer. For our global audience, you might just know it as football. Unfortunately, here in America, we have another sport that we call football. So we kind of just renamed football to soccer. But anyways, the FIFA World Cup is going on. And of course, it's being hosted in the United States. So obviously, there's been several issues. The most hilarious of which is Boston basically running out of beer. But a security researcher did say she was able to access several internal FIFA platforms due to a simple security flaw, which allowed her to not only watch, but to have full control of the live TV stream of every World Cup game. And going under the name of Bob the Hacker, this lady was simply registered as a player agent in FIFA's official agent registration platform. So somehow she managed to get an agent account created. Then thanks to, having that account and a flaw in the backend API, which didn't check if the user actually had proper authorization, she was able to access the platforms and, control what the broadcast sees. Now, she didn't go into a huge amount of details, at least not yet. But she did say that she was going to come up with a blog write-up, and when that shows up, I'll have it linked in the show notes for you. Because, that's kind of hilarious. So, since we just got off an AI topic, let's talk about another AI topic. According to TechCrunch, Anthropic has been having a bit of a feud with the U.S. government. And this is the good kind of feud for Anthropic. Because you remember how much, like VPN companies that advertised that they kept no logs and everything would get raided by the FBI, and then they'd make a big stink about it. And it turned out to be a really good marketing play for them because, the feds came and raided and they found nothing. Anthropic's kind of having that kind of moment right now. Now, if you don't know, Anthropic is the one that created the Mythos model, which Mythos is an AI model that's intended to find security flaws in software. And as a result, Anthropic came out and said that this thing is too dangerous to be let into the wild. So they've been really, really, really cautious about who they give access to. As in, gotta give them a lot of money. But Anthropic is also a company that contracts with the U.S. government, but they also said that they cannot use the models for mass surveillance of Americans or to make use of fully autonomous weapons. And as a result, the U.S. government has declared them a supply chain risk, which means that the U.S. government's probably not going to be using Mythos at all, or really any Anthropic product. That, of course, did not oppose Anthropic's actual sales at all in like the private sector, which knocked them up to about a 41% market share in May, which is pretty huge. I believe Anthropic is the let me double check this here. Anthropic, I think they make Claude, don't they? Yeah, they do. Which Claude code is very heavily used in like software development. So I'm not surprised to see like that number actually being relatively high, and they're also one of the few AI companies that are actually profitable. Which I don't know if OpenAI is actually a profitable company at this point, or at least their for-profit arm at least. So yeah. Anthropic came out with like this new model apparently called Fable 5, which is supposed to have guardrails on Mythos, and said that Mythos managed to breach Fable 5's little guardrails thing. So they stopped providing it. And then, the White House started coming out with this thing. So I'm just convinced that's going to be a huge marketing ploy for them. And of course, in the background, you might be hearing thunder in the background. There is a pretty massive thunderstorm just like coming right outside. So let's get through this last topic relatively quickly, because the UK came out with an announcement, or came out with a policy saying that anybody under the age of 16 is just banned from using a social media service, with regulations due just before Christmas and rules taking effect in the spring of 2027. Now, to enforce this, the platforms are now required to verify the age of their users, which means that if you open a new account, you probably have to upload an ID or pass a facial recognition scan. The same things that you've been hearing about for a while now, which effectively means that your privacy on the internet is actually kind of dead now, because one of the things that you've seen many people make use of, scammers these days mostly, was that way back in the day that if you wanted to post something controversial on like a social media service, you just made a brand new temporary account. In fact, this is something you see happen on Reddit all the time, where people just create a temporary account, call it like fake account number 732 or something like that. Which people aren't going to be able to do that anymore. Now, this is modeled on Australia's legal effort, which I don't know how successful that one's working out. The only Australian that I really talked to is Brody, and it's been a minute. I really haven't asked him about that. But they define a social media service as a platform whose sole purpose is to enable social interaction and that run algorithmic feeds, specifically naming Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Snapchat, Facebook, and X, as well as messaging services such as WhatsApp and Signal. Messaging services themselves, such as WhatsApp and Signal, are explicitly excluded, as well as the YouTube Kids service. Which means that if you upload no ID, you get to watch Spider-Man and Elsa on YouTube. Because that's still a thing that's going on. Or, educational content, or e-commerce, or music streaming, but you probably don't get the ability to, leave a comment. Now, the UK does say it will go further than Australia has. So this is probably bringing in restrictions to things such as live streaming, and complete strangers being able to just send a message to a child, and which will be restricted, as well as a wider range of services, including gaming services, so like your online gaming. So I remember back in the days of having an Xbox and subscribing to Xbox Live, and playing Halo, and then a 10-year-old will join. That's not supposed to happen anymore. But now they do say that the stranger contact and live streaming restrictions should be turned on by default until you pass the AI verification, which then says, which if it says that you're old enough to use these services, you're then supposed to be able to have an option you could toggle to disable them, but they're supposed to be enabled by default. And of course, there is a catch for adults. The UK government has said that most adults won't face a fresh check, which means that this only applies to brand new accounts. Now, I don't know about you, but it's not incredibly hard to hack a Facebook account. After all, you just have to be able to get somebody's phone here in the United States and, just make sure that it's unlocked, or, find the PIN code for it. And Facebook automatically logs in, doesn't really check to see who's actually using the phone. They just automatically assumes that the account holder is. It's in fact easier nowadays in such ways to, hack a Facebook account than it's ever been. So it's kind of getting worse, because if you go through these services, including uploading your identity to them, well, now that means that there's actual government backed verification. And as a result, Tom Scott's talk from 2014 called "Privacy is Dead, What Happens Next?" becomes ever more real. And I've got that linked in the show notes. Now, obviously, the storm is here. It is raining quite heavily right now, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap up the show for the day. If you would like to support us, just go to patreon.com/NoTuxAllowed. Drop some funds there, and we will give you access to a special RSS feed with higher bitrate audio quality, because that matters for some people, as well as some special bonus content in there every now and then, which hasn't seen posted in for quite a while, but it does show up there. And of course, if you would like to get in contact with us, you can send us an email to contact@tuxbase.com, as well as joining our Discord space. Just go to tuxbase.com/discord, and that will invite you to a Discord server. And of course, if you don't use Discord, we do have a Matrix service available. Now, a link for that is in the show notes. So, anyways, guys, that's it for today. And I'm going to go ahead and, go look at a weather report. I'll see you later.